All right. Welcome to the You Heard Me podcast episode.
Lucky number 13.
Episode 13. It is a lucky number 13. Welcome, everybody. While everybody is tuning in, we will give it a moment and allow others to join. While we do that, we're going to get all of our ducks in a row, all of our dogs in a row, and we're going to get up the chat box so that we can make sure that we can monitor questions. One of the most important things. All right. Well, how are we all doing out there? I hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend. How are you doing? Alyssa just got home. For those of you who don't know, Alyssa commutes to Manhattan, 3 times a week now?
Mm-hmm.
3 times a week. So a lot of times when Alyssa comes home, this is the first time that we've said hello to each other because I just finish my day and Alyssa just gets home off the train. And so, how are you doing? Doing a little check-in. How are you?
Doing well.
Doing well.
Happy tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow's Friday.
And it starts summer Fridays for me.
Yeah, I don't know what that's... I used to know what that's like, but not anymore. Because we train Monday through Sunday, which is fine. Because I enjoy that. And it's a lifestyle. So, yeah, no summer Fridays.
I enjoy summer Fridays.
And Alyssa enjoys her summer Fridays. And we're not gonna blame Alyssa for that one. All right. Well, sounds good. So I do have a topic that I want to get into today. And I'm going to pull up the control panel. Okay. So I want to talk about the language of the leash. So it's very, very important. That is one of the most important.
You into a poll?
No, because I'm choosing the topic. So when I get a thought in my mind during the week. And also I feel like with the polls, I'm starting to run out of things to put in the poll. So I'm making up the topics, not making them up. But when I think of something I want to talk about, I'm choosing the topic for a while, for the next probably couple weeks. But sometimes I get passionate about a topic during the week and I'm like, okay, well,
you're thinking about it or someone's asking you about it.
Or somebody's asking me about it. Exactly.
Yada, yada.
That's why. All right.
Okay.
Well, so yes, and I will still do the polls because I do want to hear from everybody. And certainly we will still put up questions and things like that so that we can gather your questions leading up to the podcast. But when I feel that passion, that burn of passion, I may choose the topic and I'm choosing it this week. So, and it's going to be about the leash. So I do want to talk about the language of the leash and why that's so important. And basically what you have to remember is that when we have a leash on our dog, there's a few things that occur. One of those things is your dog, if they grew up viewing the leash as less of a communication and more of a restraint, that becomes a problem. So a lot of dogs, when they grow up, or rather when they're puppies and they're maturing, the leash is just something they learn that is more of a restraint than it is a communication. Now, why is this all important to understand? Well, if you look at any training Instagram, if you look at most training videos, what is the one thing that attaches the trainer to the dog? The leash.
Huh?
The leash. The leash is the one thing that attaches the trainer to the dog most times if you watch a training video.
Yes.
Alyssa's, who knows where Alyssa is right now? She's here somewhere. So why is that important? Well, because if you are watching training videos and the one thing that is a constant in those videos is the leash, you should start asking yourself why. And so I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on that. And of course, some of this is obvious, and I'm sure some of this is already very aware, or you're already very aware of this already. But I got an itch in my nose. But why is that important? Well, if you can reverse the way your dog thinks about the leash, and you can get them to think about it less as a restraint and more as a communication tool, then you're pretty much off to the races. Now, we always start with a leash on the dog. When a dog comes to us and they go through a board and train with us, there is leash, what they call, a lot of trainers will call leash drag. So leash drag is just either you're holding onto the leash or the leash is dragging behind the dog. That's also why you hear a lot of trainers recommend have a leash on your puppy so that you can communicate with them inside. And I can guarantee you almost 99% of people are not doing that. And so there is this resistance out there that I feel and other trainers may feel when owners view the leash, well, why the leash? Why the leash? Well, the leash is able to communicate to your dog in a very clear way, clearer a lot of times than your own words. A lot of us, and when I say us, we were owners at one point in time before we were trainers, we speak way too much to our dogs, and they have no idea what we're saying. But I can guarantee you that using a leash is very clear without saying anything at all. And so once you start to understand that you can talk to your dog by using a leash, using leash pressure to be more precise and specific, now you can start communicating with your dog in a way that you have never been able to before. And so if you always see leashes on in training videos, and when you're watching trainers on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and you see a leash there and you see the trainer holding a leash, it's not because that leash is, most of the time, it's not a passive exercise. You're usually seeing a trainer use a leash to communicate. Although it may not be super obvious, or it may be. It all depends on what that video is. But generally, leash pressure allows you to communicate to your dog in a very clear way. You either have pressure or no pressure. That you can't get clearer than that. You can get very unclear with your words, though. Again, this is a very obvious point, but dogs don't understand English, right? Mm-hmm. We have to teach them English. We have to teach them the words. What you also have to teach the leash as well, but the leash typically goes much faster because it's connected to your dog. When you're speaking to your dog, there isn't a lot of direction and connection there. I'm actually going to use that. When you're speaking to your dog and you haven't taught the meaning of the word, there is no I just said it and I just messed it up. There's no direct connection to your words until there's meaning. And you can make the same case for the leash, but the leash is connected to your dog. There is a connection there, right? And it's an immediate connection. Your words don't have an immediate connection if they are not taught and given value or meaning, right? And so, yes, obviously we want to establish a verbal communication system with our dogs so that we don't have to have a leash on, but you have to use the leash to get off the leash. Yeah. And I think that is one of the most fundamental mistakes that we see people make is the leash comes off way too soon. And there's no fluent meaning given to words. And so because there's no direct connection there, you lose a lot of reliability with your dog. And so if I got a puppy tomorrow, you better believe that they would have a leash on for the first 6 months to a year.
You're so cute. Or
6 months. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Probably the first 6 months or first handful of months until I feel like I could get that dog off leash. And when puppies are that young, it's very beneficial to have a leash on. So, but even for 10-year-old dogs, it is very beneficial. If you've never taught a leash pressure communication system, I don't care the age of the dog, it's very beneficial, especially if your words, they don't have fluent understanding in the words you're giving them. And so this is all very important to understand because what we do is it's not magic. As much as I'd like to take the credit for it, it's not magic. It's using what the dog understands to bridge the gap to something the dog doesn't understand. So you'll use the leash, okay? And then you'll bridge it to something like an e-collar so you can get off the leash. But before you even get to an e-collar trained dog, you have to go through leash training. You cannot skip the leash training process. However, so many people have skipped the leash pressure phase in their training and they have no reliability. And that's why. And if you ask your average struggling owner about leash pressure, I bet you they won't know, they won't even be able to speak to it or didn't even think it was a thing. And so there needs to be more information out there about this because this is why, excuse me, allergies, this is why people are struggling. Because A, there's not enough information out there about a leash communication system and how it could be beneficial. And B, this idea, this over glamorization of using treats for everything is just sending people down the wrong path, thinking that by doing repetition after repetition after repetition of treat luring is going to give you a beautiful heel. It may sometimes, but it's not going to all the time and not for every dog. There isn't enough information, or there should be just as much information about leash pressure than there is about luring with treats. There should be an abundance of information on both, because what works for one dog, it does not work for the other. And so that's leash pressure in a nutshell. Pressure on, I want you to do something. Pressure off, you've begun to do what I've asked of you. There is no greater clarity in that system than pressure on and pressure off. When pressure comes off, you can give a reward. It's very clear to your dog.
You just posted a video on this on Instagram about this.
Thank you. Yes, I post a lot of videos on this. And we also have a guide that we are releasing in the next couple days, and it is like 20 pages all on leash pressure. And you can download it. It's for free. And you can go through it. It explains exactly how you would use leash pressure for a variety of commands. All the major commands, actually. So we will post a link on our Instagram so that you can download that, and there will be other guides coming thereafter as well. And then there will be video components for each guide that that pairs to each page in the guide as well. So it's going to be a very robust online offering that is coming into fruition very, very quickly. In fact, probably within the next month, we'll be able to announce the first, courses, and they'll be centered around leash pressure, because more people will benefit from having a leash pressure system with their dog, because most people want reliability, and that's why we use the leash, and that's why you see a lot of trainers preach keep a leash on your dog. That's why, because of that clarity. And yes, you could treat lure your dog to death, but is that going to give you reliability? No. Especially in distracting and highly arousing circumstances. It's just not going to happen. And so we're going to share more information about this. The reason why I chose this as a topic this week and I didn't put up a poll is because we do have a guide coming out on this, and I wanted to preface and go into a little bit more detail and context on the importance of leash pressure.
Right.
So
you have your vitamin water today?
I don't, and I'm pissed. I didn't have time. I didn't have time to go to the gas station. I didn't get my vitamin water, and I'm not happy about it.
Oh,
but
boy.
I'm going to put a smile on anyway.
All right.
So
hopefully you don't get too parched.
I'm going to get parched. I'm already parched.
Okay.
But that's okay. That's all right.
Alrighty. Let's get into the questions.
Let's get into the questions. What we got?
Okay. Why do older dogs not like puppy energy? It seems like there's always an issue surrounding an older grumpy dog.
Okay. Well, I have a joke on this, because when you become older in age,
you're just grumpy.
I'm not going to say that everybody gets grumpy when they get older, but what happens is when you get older, your thoughts,
you have less patience.
Well, that too. But, well, no, I mean, again, everybody's different. But, you know.
You just say what you want.
Are you going to let me finish my thought
Sorry.
today? All right. I got the peanut gallery to my left over here, who I love very much. It's my beautiful wife, Alyssa, for those of you that don't know this already, for those of you that are tuning in for the first time. Man, that was the second time in a row that I forgot that. I'm trying to keep consistent things. Like, somebody called me out for not wearing a dog shirt because I was wearing them almost every podcast. And like, you didn't wear a dog shirt. So, consistency, there's consistency and inconsistency when it comes to.
Well, we like to change things up a little bit.
Yeah,
just
wearing
say that.
dog shirts. And, I like to change.
You got to wash your shirts.
Yeah, laundry day. Okay. But, I got clean dog shirts now. So everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So she interrupted me, and I was going to answer the question. So here's what happens. When you get older, your beliefs and thought processes solidify. And, those could be changed, along the way. But the older you get, the less likely you're going to change the way you think and you believe, and the amount of energy that you can put up with. And that's probably the better way to put it. It's not necessarily about the solidification of your thoughts and the beliefs and opinions. It's also about how much energy when you get older that you can handle. So, like, you're not going to see me on a boat you're not going to see me at a boat party. Like, we're starting to watch the Ozarks again. For those of you at home, if you have not seen Ozark, I think Ozarks with Jason Bateman. It's on Netflix. We're rewatching it for like the second or third time. It's a very good show. And the reason why I bring that up is because last night there was a big boat party, and I was like, man, you could never catch me there in a million years.
You even said that. That's so funny.
I know. So I tried it during the week. I try to find inspiration for the podcast. Part of that is picking out topics and stuff like that, but also just general things that happen Monday through Thursday or whatever, Thursday through Thursday, whatever, however you want to put it. Regardless, you could not catch me at a boat party. And I was thinking, I'm like, all that energy and noise would drive me mad. Now, ask me 10 years ago, you might catch me at one of those things. All right, so so to draw the parallel to dogs,
You'd be the first one.
Your old grumpy dog is not going to go to a boat party. No.
In your white jeans.
Yeah, so is not going to go to a boat party. Now, what does that mean? That basically means that the older your dog gets, the less energy they can handle. And so what do puppies have more than anything?
Energy.
Okay? What do older dogs have less of as they get older?
Energy.
Right? So a lot of this is more about energy than it is anything else. Now, of course, if your older dog had a negative experience, at a young age and it solidified and whatever that thing is, yeah, certainly that could be playing a role, but a majority of it is energy and how your older dog can or cannot process high levels of energy. And that's what I'm going to leave you with. So no older dogs at boat parties. It's going to be our children book that we put together or something.
Okay. If my dog won't leave another dog alone during play, what would you recommend? It's hard to get him to break his focus when all he wants to do is play all the time.
Yeah. Well, there needs to be an off switch there. So what you want to do is you have to teach an off switch. So what is an off switch? I'm a big fan of, okay, when is enough enough? Now, a lot of dogs are never taught how to turn off excitement. And it all really starts with the skill of turning off excitement when you need them to. Not when they want to, but when you need them to. And so it really behooves you to not wait until your dog is playing to try to teach this, but teach it when your dog is not playing so that when this happens, you've already taught it in a non-distracting manner. So it will solidify, going back to the word solidify, it will solidify a belief system in your dog that, hey, at all other times when mom needs me to turn this off, I know how to do that. And you'll be more likely to set your dog up for success if you help them turn off their excitement in all the other facets of their life too. So don't start with the hardest thing for them, which seems like is him or her playing. Start with other things like, your significant other coming home. Try to turn that excitement off, and how would you do that? What would you need to teach? I would absolutely teach a place command and I would teach a down command. Those are two calming commands, and they're also commands that will teach impulse control. And a lot of what this individual is describing is the dog just has this incessant need to satisfy all the things that are going on in its body. And without any sense of impulse control and without being able to sit still for more than 5 seconds, you're really going to struggle on this. So I would start teaching skills that teach your dog how to deal with their impulses, because playing and nonstop playing is an impulse that your dog is struggling with. So you're going to help them with their impulses, and that will ladder up to that eventual point where you say to your dog, okay, enough is enough. Call them back to you, put them in a down, put them on place if you have a raised cot near you, and then just hold them to it. They may not like it the first time, or the second time, or third time. That's why training has to be consistent, and it needs to be practiced, and it needs to be reinforced. All right, so this is not going to happen on the first time you teach a place command. But I think a lot of times we focus so much on the context to which we're struggling, but we don't spend enough time outside of the context of where we're struggling. And because of that, we kind of set our dogs up for failure because we're not teaching them in all other facets of their day all these skills. And so don't wait until it becomes a problem. Get ahead of it, and your dog will be more likely to be reliable in the moment where you're frustrated because you're doing all the work elsewhere, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you for the validation, my
welcome.
dear, donning a Giants sweatshirt. Sorry for all you non-Giants fans out there. Actually, sorry for us, because the Giants are absolutely awful. So they're just terrible.
Yeah, I don't even like watching them anymore. What tips do you recommend for recall? My dog will come back to me sometimes, but others, it's like I'm not even there.
Yeah. All right. So what you're dealing with is competing motivators. So when your dog wants to come back to you, they are. And when your dog doesn't want to come back to you, I don't know if it's a he or was it he or she? Is it he?
I don't know.
They.
Doesn't specify.
Okay. So when there's a competing motivator, they are essentially the reason why it's unpredictable and it's unreliable is because you're dealing with competing motivators. A competing motivator essentially is there's something in the environment that's more motivating for your dog to investigate than you. And then when your dog does come to you, there's probably nothing that's competing with you in that moment. And that's why you're dealing with that lack of reliability or the unpredictability of when your dog is going to come to you and when not your dog's not going to come to you, because you're dealing with those competing motivators in those moments. So what you have to do is, going back to the leash pressure spiel that I had earlier on in the podcast, is you want to get yourself a 20-foot lead, or leash. Etsy, there's a lot of people that'll make biothane ones. I like the biothane ones because you can wash them off. You can put them in the shower or whatever, put them in the bathtub, rinse them out.
Yeah,
the fabric ones,
yes, you don't want fabric or like rope or whatever.
Yeah, so you don't want to use a fabric one. So get a biothane long leash. You can even leave it in your yard and it will stand the test of time. Let's just put it that way. And so what you're going to do is first of all, you're going to start without all the training that anybody should be doing with the advice that they get from this podcast should be non-distractions first, okay? You want to make sure that you are working your dog in an environment to which they can focus. And that's really important. So if you're going to do recall and you're going to do, pressure work towards you and then reward, make sure you're phasing this out. So non-distractions, a little bit of distractions, a little bit more distractions, greater distractions, and even greater distractions. That's how you should think about your training arc. Okay. So no distractions to a lot of distractions and then everything in between. And you don't want to move forward until your dog succeeds every step of the way. All right. So you're going to get yourself a long line. You're going to apply pressure towards you. Your dog gives into pressure. You're going to release. Yes. Get very excited. Walk backwards. Bend your body a little bit. Entice them to come to you. They get to you. Okay. Reward. Do that over and over and over and over and over again. All right. And then, so what you want to get to is your dog feels that language of the leash, that leash pressure towards you. Okay. They're like, ooh, I'm somebody's communicating with me. Mom or dad's communicating with me. I'm going to come over to them. Once you see that they're gravitating to that, add the verbal cue. So come. All right. Pressure. Dog comes over to you. You reward them over and over and over again. And then what you're going to do is, once they understand that, then bring them out in the yard, and whatever that competing motivator is, whether it's a squirrel, a deer, a truck, a skateboard, whatever it is, you're going to use that same concept. So come, all right, obviously your dog's not going to turn around and come to you. Pressure, they understand pressure because you did so many reps of it. They turn around, they come to you, you reward. You do that over and over for that specific competing motivator until your dog succeeds. Then you go on to the next competing motivator, and then the next competing motivator. And you're basically going to do this for all the competing motivators, not all of them, but for a good variety of them. And then you can start getting into e-collar work, which is a little bit more nuanced, but you have your work cut out for you for now. And then once you feel like your dog is coming to you reliably with the long leash, get yourself a mini educator, and then you can download our e-collar starter guide, which will be available in the next couple weeks. So that's what I'm going to leave you with for now. Great.
5-year-old boxer barks at people entering the home, including some family. Seems to be getting worse. The other day, he snapped at someone, and it made us nervous.
Yes, that will make anybody nervous. I mean, that's not good. And how old? 5 years old? Yeah. So too much arousal happening wherever this is happening. What is the doorway? Or people entering the home? The people entering the home behavior issue is very common. Very, very common. And it's more common than you think. Now,
do you think that's because they're like, in some way, like it's their space and they're like reacting to someone coming into their space?
Here's or
is that kind of like a myth thing?
Well, I won't say it's a myth, but here's what happens. and I think we went into this on a earlier podcast, but I'm going to paraphrase because I'm not going to go into that. I think I went into like a 30-minute thing a couple of weeks ago on this whole behavior. But long story short, okay. Well, let me address what Alyssa just said. So a lot of people, dog owners, will think that the reactivity is them being protected, or they're protecting the home, or it's more about patterned behavior than it is about your dog going, ooh, somebody I can protect, or ooh, somebody's about to enter the home. Let me take the role of the guarder, right? I firmly don't believe and buy that theory. Now, what I do buy is that dogs can feel insecure and they can feel fearful. And what does insecurity and fearfulness drive? Barking and lunging. So, I mean, you could see that anywhere. I mean, you could see that out on the street. Is the dog guarding the street? Probably not. Is the dog guarding their owner? Well, they got a leash on. This whole theme of this podcast is about leashes, but there's a leash on. So why do most owners think that the dog is guarding them? Because where does the dog happen to be when they're barking at somebody on the street? They just so happen to be in front of him. But does that mean that the dog is guarding the owner? No. All right. The dog is fearful. The dog is going into the fight or flight pattern. And they're basically like, I don't want you to come anywhere near me. And so I want you to cross the street. Same thing with people entering the home. It's a patterned behavior. This person is coming in. I don't know if I want them in my space. I'm fearful and I'm insecure and I lack the, boundaries to behave myself and cope with my fear and my anxiety. So what am I going to do? I'm going to bark. I'm going to lunge. That's more so what happens than the dog putting on face paint and camo pants and going, I'm going to guard this home like I'm Rambo. That's not what's happening. Your dog is not Rambo. And as much as I feel like we need to feel like our dogs are guarding us, we need to be better about evaluating that our dogs have emotions. And those emotions drive actions. And those actions drive consequences. All right? So when a dog bites, that emotion, if it's from fear,
right,
we have to help our dogs feel more confident, right? And we have to also give them protocols and boundaries to which they can be their best self. Now, if you like the fact that your dog barks when people arrive, okay, I'll buy that. But when is enough enough? When is too much too much? And I do think that that there is a percentage of dog owners that they let it go because they do like their dog alerting them, but then they don't know. It's a slippery slope because then it becomes a patterned behavior, and then it's too late when the dog finally bites somebody. So I'm okay with dogs barking. That's fine. But you need to be very, very cautious on how long you let that go on for, because it only elevates most of the time. Escalates. It only becomes a bigger part of your dog, and then you're having to call a trainer because your dog won't even let somebody come in the front door. So yes, barking's okay. They want to let you know that somebody's there. Fine. But then it needs to be paired with, I am now taking control of the situation. And that is the missing piece that usually is tried to incorporate when it's already too late. Not too late, when it's already a bigger problem. And then the dog starts biting people. So I don't want to mince words here. We should not glorify this guarding dog behavior because we really enjoy it. And then on the other side of the coin, we're afraid of having people come in the house. That's not healthy at all. It's not healthy for your dog, and it's not healthy for you to live with that type of anxiety. So you have to be able to communicate with your dog and say, no, enough is enough. Now I'm going to handle it. And it is not funny for your dog to be growling at your friend coming in. It's not funny. None of this stuff is funny because it will lead to somebody getting hurt. So, and I'm not saying that the person that asked this question is implying that, but in a general sense, I have heard, through the grapevine of people that will just let their dog just sit out, and guard the house. And that's just not healthy. It's not healthy for your dog. Your dog is living in just their mind is just deteriorating. And they're feeling so many emotions, and it's very sad. So no, your dog's likely, unless your dog went through a protection dog training program, they're not guarding the house. They're not guarding you. They're feeling likely insecure, and it's our jobs to build the dog's confidence so that they can be okay with those things happening around their home. So boundaries, set those boundaries, make them very clear, and then keep going back to the leash example. Keep a leash on your dog. All right. You're going to want to teach a place. You're going to want to teach a down. You're going to want to teach a come command, and you're going to use all three so that when these things happen, you have 3 words you can use to your dog to get them back to you and put them somewhere. And that's it. If you teach these words reliably, you do not have to put them in a bedroom. All right. A lot of people put their dog in a bedroom. If you can build these reliable commands, which is doable for everybody, every single person could do that. What I'm describing, you will feel a greater peace of mind knowing you could still have your dog out with you and not have to usher them away. And also you'll feel better because you'll know that you're helping your dog's inner emotions, and you're going to help them become more confident as a result. So start with a leash pressure based system. Get yourself a raised pet cot on Amazon, Veehoo, Veehoo. That's the brand that we use. Get a raised pet cot. Start teaching your dog how to walk on top of it. Reward them for going on top of it. And then, as I described, go into your training arc. So no distractions, a little bit of distractions, 1 door knock, 3 door knocks, 4 door knocks. Ask your dog to go to place during all these times and reward them through the process. Start slow, gradually work them up. And then in the meantime, you just have to do what you have to do. You have to keep everybody safe, put up baby gates if you need to so that nobody gets hurt, and just know that you're working towards the issue, and that's entirely fine. Nobody is expecting for you to do this overnight. And so take the stress off your shoulders, set yourself up for success, keep everybody safe in the meantime. You're going to do this. You're going to be able to accomplish it. And like I said, we will have guides that we're gonna post on our Instagram and the links for those so that you have a little bit more of a clearer sense and guidance of how to exactly go about incorporating all the things that we've talked about so far on the podcast.
Great. Is it true the crate causes more anxiety? I feel like we've gotten this one before too. My pup just seems calmer outside of it, so we ditched it a long time ago. Definitely don't ditch it.
Well,
definitely not.
I know why. I understand why it's ditched, and I also, I understand.
No, you know why it's ditched.
That's what I just said. I said I understand. I said understand
it, because whatever. I'm just saying.
Did
you prefer them to use it?
Yeah. I'm just gonna hold on for a moment. I'm trying to process what's going on to the left of me right now. Did you have giggly pills before this podcast, or like what's going on over here?
I'm just happy tomorrow's a half day.
Yes. Oh, that's why. Because you have a half day tomorrow.
Yes, I said that earlier.
Yes, that's
right. What a summer Friday is.
Yes, summer Fridays. I haven't had those in a very long time. See, you're making me lose. I don't even know what I was going to respond, and now you've derailed me twice now.
You understand why?
Yes. So I understand. Why, because there's a sense where when we see our dog struggling, we want to step in and nurture and make it easier.
That's part of the problem.
Alyssa, I swear,
okay,
if I cannot finish a sentence,
I'll shut up now.
That's all right.
Okay, goodbye.
No goodbye. No goodbye. Come back in. All right. So yes. Okay. There is a sense where, and I get it. Don't, I swear. And I get it. That when we see our dog struggling, we want to step in and help them and make it easier. And that is why I understand why people phase the crate out. And I'm looking over at Alyssa to make sure that she's not going to throw a little zinger in here and catch me off guard. So this is why this happens. And I don't blame, the most important thing I want to make clear is I don't blame anybody for phasing the crate out, because I understand what it feels like to have to get some sleep at night, and which is why most people phase it out, because we all have to get rest. But also I understand on the same side of things that when we see our dog struggling, we want to step in and nurture and make things easier. But you have to remember what you're doing when you're doing that. When you see your dog struggling, that is not the time to step in. Generally, I'm not going to blanket statement this, but generally, when your dog is struggling, you have to think about, how can I help them through it? Not necessarily, how can I remove them from this stressful situation? Now, we're getting a little bit further away from the crate part of this, but this is what happens with the crate, which is we see a dog struggling in a crate. We take them out because we want to make it easier for them. But what are we doing? We're removing them from a stressful, potentially stressful situation. What is that going to lead to over time? What is your dog going to perceive when things get tough? Who is going to be there to remove them from stressful situations? You. Okay, well, are you teaching your dog how to be independent? Why is that a problem? Because when your dog gets older and they feel other emotions, they're not going to be able to self-regulate, and that turns into all other sorts of problems. So although it starts with the crate, we have to push our dogs through things. We have to be better about pushing our dogs through things. We also have to be better about guiding them through stressful situations and not removing them from stressful situations. Now, the crate does not, in of itself, create anything, because the crate is just an item. What is created, and the same thing applies to e-collars and prong collars and all the training tools. Training tools don't create anything. They don't create anything. They are tools. They can create, and what I mean by they don't create anything is they don't create behavior issues. My chin keeps hitting the microphone. I gotta move it forward. These tools don't create things that weren't already there. Okay? Now, an e-collar does not create aggression. The crate does not create anxiety. Okay? These things are items. Okay? Now, yes, if you use an e-collar incorrectly, yeah, you can create anxiety. Okay? You can make your dog weary. Okay? Certainly. The crate is not a active tool like an e-collar. So yes, theoretically, if you use a training tool incorrectly, you can create weariness. Sure. And let's get that out of the way. But in general, simply putting your dog in a crate, okay, is not going to create, the crate is not creating it. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to illustrate, I'm not doing a very good job on it right now, is the crate is a means to teach your dog a boundary and a den-like experience for them to cope with their emotions. The problem with that is when all other times of the day, the dog perceives their owner to be that, coping mechanism, for lack of a better phrase, well, then of course, when they go into the crate and they view their owner as that blanket, the crate loses all sorts of value. So it's not the crate creating the anxiety, it's how the dog is living their entire day. And that's really finally what I wanted to get to, and I was sort of fumbling a little bit there, but that's ultimately what I'm trying to illustrate. So training tools can be very beneficial when taught properly, okay? So now the crate, if it's taught at a very young age and you don't remove your dog from the situation and you push them through it and you make it a routine and you're incessant about making it a routine, then it's going to be far less work down the line, all right? So no, the crate is not. Now, when you put your dog in there, the anxiety is coming from being away from you most of the time. The anxiety is coming from the dog not learning how to sit still. The anxiety is coming from all these things that have been patterned. And yes, the dog going into the crate is bringing those things to the surface, okay? But crates are very beneficial tools. They're not going to just create anxiety that wasn't already there. Okay. Now, yes, some training tools, yes, again, used improperly, then they can create some weariness. But, there's a lot of myths out there that, like the e-collar will make my dog more aggressive or reactive. It's like, no. If you correct the dog at the wrong time and, you're not using it properly, certainly you can agitate your dog, but is that creating the aggression and the reactivity? No, the aggression and the reactivity was already there. You just agitated your dog and it didn't make it worse. It's just like me. If I'm in an argument, somebody comes over and pokes me in the arm, I was already upset. So you just, are you making me an aggressive person? No, you just upset me a little bit more, but you're not turning me into, whatever, so that's the general sense there. So no. And I've heard that crate thing, I don't want to put my dog in the crate because I'm afraid of how they might feel. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. When we're afraid of how our dogs might feel, we're just going into that perpetual cycle of being a crutch, and we're never helping them through stress. And so crate training, we have a 10-year-old dog here right now, and we're having to go through all the crate training protocols, and it's going very well, but it's thousands and thousands and thousands of reps, or at least that's what it feels like. And I'm sure if I sat down and counted, it'd be that many. So do this young, and
start them young.
Start it, and believe me, you'll thank me for it.
I undid my zipper.
Alyssa,
my mouth.
Okay.
I'm talking again. The neck.
All right.
Okay.
I had a lot of things to comment there, and I kept my mouth. I did my zipper. I'm getting the dagger eyes now. All right. Well,
last
this
question
is turning into
of the night.
Okay.
What should I do to help my dog leave things they shouldn't get into around the house? Our molding has taken a beating, but she'll also grab things off the table.
Yes. Well, that actually kind of leads into the earlier question, which is the crate is not only a great way to help your dog cope with how they feel, and it gives them a place to rest and a safe spot and yada, 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 all the things that we've heard about.
Them from getting into trouble.
Yes. Alyssa just hit the nail on the head. And yeah. So, too much freedom too soon is a very bad thing for some dogs. And so crate training is your solution. All right. And I understand that you don't want to create a problem from a problem, but you're not creating a problem from a problem. You're ripping the Band-Aid so that the problem you're facing right now will go away. And does that mean that your dog is going to have to learn how to be somewhere and be still and lay down and do things they never had to before? But sure, but that's training, right? That's training. You're teaching your dog how to do something that they weren't capable of. And if you're struggling with a dog grabbing things and, stealing stuff, you need to take away some of their freedom. I know a lot of people don't like hearing that. We can't keep giving and not getting anything in return from our dogs, right? So I'm a big, we just went paddle boarding with Ash and Layla. Ash and Layla, our two dogs, get tons of freedom. We take them all over the place. But on the same, opposite side of the coin, they also are very well behaved because they understand the rules and they understand what they can and can't do. And so don't think about taking away freedom as a limiter. Think at it as something that you're going to be able to, the freedom that you do take away, you're going to be able to add it in other places, right? So you're just replacing. Okay, yeah, your dog may not be able to free roam every moment of every day, but the more your dog learns how to earn freedom, the more freedom you can give. And the more your dog learns these commands and whatever they are, the more things you're going to be able to do with your dog. The more peace of mind you're going to have, the less stressed you're going to be. And guess what? The less stressed you are, the more likely you're going to want to do things and take your dog places and go places. So all that stuff is really important to put into perspective. And I think that's important to understand that when we are going through tough times with our dogs, that there is that light at the end of the tunnel. And just always remember why you're doing this, right? Because the not doing of it, it's only going to get worse. It doesn't get better. It most of the time, 99% of the time, the dog does not grow out of it. The dog does not, unless it's like nipping or like a puppy shell thing, certainly they can grow out of it. But for an older dog that's doing bad behavior, the more it becomes patterned and ingrained, the harder it is going to be for you. So my piece of advice is always to nip it in the bud as soon as possible. Otherwise, forget it.
Start them young.
Yeah. Alyssa's on one today. I'm trying to it's because she's got her half day tomorrow, and she's very lucky.
I had a long 4-day weekend this past weekend.
She had a long 4-day weekend.
It was very lovely.
Yes.
I only had to go into the office twice this week instead of 3.
Well, very nice.
But it all starts to go downhill next week.
I don't know what that means, but all right. I don't know this corporate lingo that I've so left behind me. But yeah. Well, what else we got?
Very lovely. That's all.
That's all.
That was the last question.
That was the last question.
And I think this is the longest one we've done.
It's close. We're at what? 46 minutes? My answers can be long-winded. And let me guess, we know. I'm waiting for we know. Yep, there it is. Well, thank you, everybody. You Heard Me podcast coming to you every Thursday, 8 p.m. This is episode 13. We will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us on your Thursday night. See you next week. Have a great night and have a great weekend. Goodbye.
See you next time.
See you next time.